The name of our lesson, The Real Jerusalem, Part 2. In our last videotape lesson, The Real Jerusalem, we brought forth the mind-blowing possibility that modern-day Jerusalem is not the holy Jerusalem where King Solomon built our holy temple for the Most High, nor was the place that King David conquered and called the city of David. We charged each and every Hebrew Israelite who would see or hear that lesson to study to show thyself approved on this matter. And many have done so. We read the 83rd Psalms to verify that our enemies took crafty counsel against our people, so that the name of Yisrael would be no more in remembrance, and put forth the possibility that the heathens in their slickness called themselves moving the actual location of our holy cities from the south in the promised land to where modern-day Jerusalem now sits in the north. We made known the difference between Amorite Jerusalem, whose king was Adonizek, king of Jerusalem, who led the 5 kings of the Amorites in war against Joshua and the Hebrews once Joshua led our people across the river Jordan and we first came into the promised land. We read about that, and how with Yah's help, Joshua destroyed their armies and killed the 5 kings of the Amorites, and captured and took the Jerusalem of the Amorites that actually sits in a mountain. We then let it be known that hundreds of years later, after Joshua had defeated those 5 Amorite kings, hundreds of years later, King David made a move on the Canaanite stronghold of Jebus, home of the Jebusites in the south of the land, and renamed it the city of David, and also Jerusalem. And it was at this Jerusalem where David's son Solomon built our holy temple and placed the Ark of the Covenant. Now we knew when we brought forth that presentation it would cause a stir in Hebrews worldwide. And it certainly has. If y'all was to go back and look at that video and look at the comments that's on there, you can see it stirred up Hebrews from one end of the planet to the other. Many Israelites have been compelled to do some in-depth studying and research to see if the claim that the desolate and barren ruins located in Tel Arad could be the exact location where the city of David and the real Jerusalem is located. This Shabbat, we shall delve even deeper into the written history of Jerusalem and the prophecies concerning our holy city, and see if modern Jerusalem or the recently discovered Jebusite Jerusalem, which lies in the south in the Negev desert, could be in fact where the real city of David is located. Based on the overwhelming response we have received from Israelites who've seen the video of our lesson, The Real Jerusalem, this what led me to dig even deeper into the scriptures of some of our last day prophets to see if there is any possibility that Telluride is where the real Jerusalem sits at to this day. And once again, I charge you Hebrew Israelites to study to show thyself approved, so that all things that were hidden and lost from you may be revealed unto you. Let us begin with a look at the history of Jerusalem. Y'all open up this link right here I'm about to provide to you. And on this link, there is a timeline that we're going to follow. Somebody click on that link right there. Prayerfully, the crackers down in Langley, Virginia, and them Edomite beast over there in Tel Aviv won't be jiggling the wire so bad this Shabbat. And y'all will be able to access that which is provided for you in this lesson. If any of y'all is able to open up that link that contains the timeline of Jerusalem, somebody come back up into the room and put a 7 up in here. And then we'll all go along this timeline together with certain points and read the history of Jerusalem as we go forth. Todah Rabbah. Okay, on this link, Jerusalem. Past, present, and awesome future. How a city known for turmoil, violence, and religious confusion will someday become world headquarters for universal peace. Uh-oh! Y'all scroll down on this link to when you get to the timeline that states a history of upheaval. It says a history of upheaval. The following is an overview of Jerusalem's tumultuous past. Now it's interesting that this timeline starts with the Jebusites. 1800 BC, the Jebusites build the wall of Jebus. In 1350, the name Jerusalem appears in diplomatic correspondence as Jerusalem in 5 Ormana letters. Uh-oh, it gets interesting right here, this next one. 1004/993, King David captures Jebus, makes Jerusalem the capital of Israel's United Kingdom. That's the first place we're going to stop on this timeline. Now y'all come back up into the room. Keep that link up because we're going to refer back to it during the course of this lesson. Now, here we see the tumultuous past of Jerusalem. And on this timeline, we're going to study some key dates, such as the one when King David took Jebus. Now get this. Let us now study some of our history. Hebrew history. And one of the world's most renowned historians is a black Hebrew Israelite who was born in Jerusalem from a royal Hebrew family and was an eyewitness of the Roman general Titus destroying Jerusalem in 70 AD, and he wrote down what he saw. His writings are still being used in the history departments of Harvard, Yale, and Oxford, the most prestigious universities in the world. The brother's name was Joseph ben Mattathias, but the world knows him by the name of Flavius Josephus. This brother, in his writings, gives an account of David capturing Jerusalem, which was then known as the city of Jebus, in his book, The Antiquity of the Jews. And we got provided for you Hebrews, for your own personal use, an online link to those very writings that we going to see this Shabbat. Now y'all click on that link right there. You want to bookmark and keep this. Because if you ever want to start reading about the history of the Hebrews, I suggest you start with the writings of Joseph ben Matthias, who the world knows as Flavius Josephus. Now you see that name Flavius Josephus and you automatically think this is some kind of Roman or Greek. No. This is a black Hebrew Israelite born of a royal Hebrew family in Jerusalem. His name is Joseph ben Matthias. And he's the only world historian who gave an eyewitness account to the destruction of Jerusalem. And we provided you a link. And if y'all can open it up, somebody put a step in there. Let me know y'all can open it up, so we can check these matters out together. Not relying on no links or no writings or no Edomites or no crackers. Let's go to some history written by a Hebrew historian, Todah Rabbah. On this link we read the works of Flavius Josephus. Josephus was born Joseph ben Mattathias in 37 CE in Jerusalem, of a priestly and royal family. He excelled in his studies of Hebrew law and studied with the Sadducees, Pharisees, and the Essenes, eventually aligning himself with the Pharisees. In 62 CE, he went to Rome to free some imprisoned priests. After accomplishing this mission through the intercession of Nero's wife, Poppaea, he returned to Jerusalem in 65 CE to find the country in revolt against Rome. Although Josephus had deep misgivings about the revolt, it became inevitable due to reasons he discussed in his history, primarily the abuses of the Romans. This spurred the growth of fanatical Messianic Jewish movements which believed that the world was coming to an end shortly. In 66 CE, the Masada was seized by the Zealots and the Romans were on the march. Josephus was appointed the commander of Galilee. Josephus had to fight a defensive war against overwhelming force while refereeing internecine squabbles in the Hebrew ranks. In 67, Josephus and other rebels were cornered in a cave during the siege of Jotapata and took a suicide pact. However, Josephus survived and was taken hostage by the Romans, led by Vespasian. Josephus shrewdly reinterpreted the messianic prophecies. He predicted that Vespasian would become the ruler of the entire world. Josephus joined the Romans, for which he was branded a traitor. He acted as consult to the Romans and a go-between with the Hebrew revolutionaries. Unable to convince the rebels to surrender, Josephus ended up watching the second destruction of the temple and the defeat of the Jewish nation. Now, here's a brother that when the fight broke out, he got caught up on Masada and was fighting with the Hebrews. After being captured, the brother came to the realization it's a lost cause. And after he talked to Vespasian, and they found out that this brother was a scholar and came up out of a royal Hebrew family, like our enemies would often do, they needed an intermediary to go down there and try to get these Hebrews to surrender. Joseph ben Matthias became that intermediary. He was commanded by Vespasian to chronicle the siege of Jerusalem by the Roman general Titus, which he did in detail. This brother went back to Rome, and his writings were so detailed and educated that they made him a Roman citizen and changed his name from Joseph ben Matthias to Flavius Josephus. Now y'all come back up into the room. If y'all have a clear understanding who this brother Joseph ben Matthias, who was born in Jerusalem, is, and how his name came to be known to the world as Flavius Josephus, if y'all understood everything that I just said, put a 7 up in this room. Please. Let me know that I explained that correctly. And the way these 7s is flying is understood. Toda Rabbah. Go back to that link. Go back to this link, the works of Flavius Josephus. The purpose of me giving y'all this link is twofold. Number one, it contains your history, Zion. The history they won't teach you about the Hebrews up in these schools. Whether it's a kindergarten, a grade school, a high school, or a university. It's only in certain universities that the works of Flavius Josephus is even discussed. Why? Because this is Hebrew history written by a black Hebrew Israelite. Now, the second purpose of us going to this link for tonight is to read the history written down that Josephus wrote concerning David taking the city of Jebus from the Jebusites. I want y'all to scroll down to where y'all see Antiquities of the Jews. These are the names of the books. One of them is War of the Jews. One of them is the Antiquity of the Jews. We want Antiquities of the Jews. Where I want y'all to go is to book 7. Book VII. Because we know some of you cats like Rantubia, y'all don't know no Roman numerals. You was eating annihilators in the back of the room in the 3rd grade and hee-hawing when the teacher was trying to teach you some Roman numerals. So you don't know what 7 is in Roman numerals. So that's book VII. V is in Victor, Aki. That's book 7. From the death of Saul to the death of David. I want y'all to click on that link. It should open up Antiquities of the Jews, book 7, containing the interval of 40 years from the death of Saul to the death of David. I want y'all to scroll down to chapter 3, where it says how David laid siege to Jerusalem. And when he had taken the city, he cast the Canaanites out of it and brought in the Jews to inhabit therein. Once y'all are at that spot, come back up into the room and put a 3 up in here. And let me know y'all there. Because I have another link containing a picture that I want y'all to see. And we can't go back to and read until we open up this next link and take a look at this picture that I want y'all to see, that we're going to refer to as we read how David laid siege to Jerusalem. Todah. You should be back up in the room and awaiting this next link. Now, this next link that I'm about to provide to you, this is a link from a heathen who was involved with them crackers down in Texas, with that Israel Hawkins. These are some crackers who claim that the buildings that they were in down in Texas, they called it the House of Yahweh. Can y'all believe that? This cracker actually had them heathens convinced that they were part of the children of Israel. Well, guess what? One of the elders from his camp found out that there was an archaeological dig down in the Negev desert. and they found on some pottery, so dating back to the time of Solomon, that had on it the house of Yahweh. So this heathen went from Texas and made a trip over to the land of Israel. And that link that's in that room right there, y'all click on that link that Shimano Yah just put up in there. That's the same one I was about to post. Sorry for my tardiness, Shimano Yah. Y'all click on that link right there. This is the page that this heathen created after he got back from his visit to Israel. The first trip he made was to the modern day Jerusalem. The second trip he made was down in the Negev. If y'all can open up that link, somebody come back in this room and put a 7 up in here. Because after I verify that y'all can open this link up, we're going to have to scroll down way past the halfway mark of this, because there's a particular picture that I want y'all to see. It's an overhead view of Telerad as she sits right now, this moment, this day. Okay, that's enough 7s. Go back to that link, the house of Yahweh. Everybody should be at the top of that link. I want y'all to scroll all the way down. Just keep scrolling down. Go all the way down. It's more than halfway down. You're going to pass the map of David City, 1010 BC. That's a little brown map. That's almost halfway down. Just keep scrolling down. You're going to pass another map, an ancient map. You're going to pass another map of the land. Keep scrolling. You're going to begin to see pictures and a title that says The Stronghold of Zion. Just go past that. Y'all can bookmark this, and of course, go back and research all this to study to show thyself approved. For right now, I want y'all to keep scrolling down past those pictures. Go down past that well that they show. Go down past that heathen sitting with that Hebrew. Keep scrolling, keep scrolling, keep scrolling. Keep scrolling past that part that say the search for Mount Zion and a call to raise the tabernacle of David. If you're almost there, keep scrolling down. Scroll down past that rainbow that's over that part of the land. Scroll down past that well that they're showing there. You almost there. Once you get past that well picture, you're going to come up to where you see overhead view of the house of Yahweh and the city called David. Once you get to that picture, stop right there, come back up into the room, and put a 9 up in here if y'all at that spot. And when we get enough 9s, then we'll begin our lesson. Our next part of our lesson, excuse me. I want y'all to have that picture as we read Josephus' account of King David taking the stronghold of Jebus. Todah Rabbah. Now let's go back to the link with the writings of Flavius Josephus, our brother Joseph ben Matthias. 9. Chapter 3. How David laid siege to Jerusalem. And when he had taken the city, he cast the Canaanites out of it, and he brought in the Jews to inhabit therein. Verse 1. Now the Jebusites, who were the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and were by extraction Canaanites, remember these were Jebusites, not Ammonites, and were by extraction Canaanites, shut their gates, and placed the blind and the lame, and all their main persons upon the wall in way king. Just like we read it in the Bible they did. and said that the very lame themselves would hinder his entrance into it. This they did out of contempt of his power, and as dependent on the strength of their walls. David was hereby enraged. King David was fired up. He looked up there and saw them putting a blind, crippled, and crazy up on that wall and said, "You Hebrews, our cripple can keep y'all from out of here." David was hereby enraged and began the siege of Jerusalem and employed his utmost diligence and alacrity therein, as intending by the taking of this place to demonstrate his power and to intimidate all others that might be of the like evil disposition towards him. So he took the lower city by force, but the citadel held out still. Stop! So King David took the lower city by force, but the citadel held out still. Go back to that picture of the overhead view of the house of Yahweh. And I want y'all to see. Do you see the lower city at the bottom of that picture? And do you see the upper city where the citadel of the Jebusites was, where the stronghold of the Jebusites was? This at that top is where they put they maimed and they blind and they mock King David and say, "You'll never be able to get up here and pass these walls." King David took the lower city by force. Do you see geographically with your own? And just today, and you can do this, pull up Google Quest or Google Map. Satellite photos will show you this exact same picture that you're looking at right now. If you put in Telerad in Google Map and click on the satellite link. That was the lower city that King David took. Now David's problem was getting up this hill, up there where that citadel was, that stronghold. Now let's go back over to the writings of Josephus. And let me read this last line again. So he took the lower city by force, but the citadel held out still. Whence it was that the king, knowing that the proposal of dignities and rewards would encourage the soldiers to greater actions, promised that he who should first go over the ditches that were beneath the citadel and should ascend. Ascend means goes up. Let me read that again. He promised that he who should first go over the ditches that were beneath the citadel and should ascend to the citadel itself and take it should have the command of the entire people conferred upon them. So they all were ambitious to ascend. Them Hebrews was fired up to get up that hill. They was going to be made great in Israel, whoever accomplished this for the king. And thought no pains too great in order to ascend thither out of their desire of the chief command. However, Joab, the son of Zeruiah, prevented the rest. And as soon as he was got up to the citadel, cried out to the king and claimed the chief command. When David had cast the Jebusites out of the citadel, he also rebuilt Jerusalem and named it the city of David. Stop! Go back to that picture of the overhead view, house of Yahweh. You see the lower city. that David took by force. He commanded his men, whoever can get up that hill, whoever can ascend up there to that citadel, to that stronghold of Zion up there, I'm going to make you great in the land. Joab accomplished that. He opened up the gates. Out of the tribe of Judah poured into that stronghold, and David cast the Jebusites out. He named the top of that hill the city of David. Come back to the writings of Josephus, and let's continue. Verse 2 again. When David had cast the Jebusites out of the citadel, he also rebuilt Jerusalem and named it the city of David, and abode there all the time of his reign. But for the time that he reigned over the tribe of Judah only in Hebron, it was 7 years and 6 months. Now when he had chosen Jerusalem to be his royal city, his affairs did more and more prosper by the providence of the Most High, who took care that they should improve and be augmented. Hiram also, the king of the Tyrians, sent ambassadors to him and made a league of mutual friendship and assistance with him. He also sent him presents, cedar trees and mechanics, and men skillful in building and architecture, that they might build him a royal palace at Jerusalem. Now David made buildings round about the lower city. He also joined the citadel to it and made it one body. And when he had encompassed all with walls, he appointed Joab to take care of them. Stop! Now David made buildings round about the lower city. Go back to that picture of the overhead view of the house of Yahweh. Now David made cities all around the lower city, made houses all around that lower city. You see that? And Josephus wrote, he also joined the citadel to it and made it one body. In other words, that stronghold up there up top of the city of David, there was no longer a lower city and a higher city. He made it one body. And then he put a wall around the whole thing and made it one. Do y'all see from the ruins of the overhead where the wall was around the lower city and encompassing the hill of the former city of Jebus? I don't care how much they tried to destroy it. The landmarks will remain the same to this day. And I challenge you, pull up Google Quest or Google View and see if you don't see this exact same overhead image from the satellites that are up above us right now. Josephus described to the letter that which lies in ruins down in the south, in the Negev, in Tel Arad. Let's continue. Go back to the writings of Josephus. And let me read that again. Now David made buildings round about the lower city. He also joined the citadel to it and made it one body. And when he had encompassed all with walls, he appointed Joab to take care of them. It was David, therefore, who first cast the Jebusites out of Jerusalem and called it by his own name the city of David. For under our father Abraham, it was called Salem or Selima. But after that time, some say that Homer mentions it by the name of Selimah, for he named the temple Selimah according to the Hebrew language, which denotes security. Now the whole time from the warfare under Joshua, our general, against the Canaanites, and from that war in which he overcame them and distributed the land among the Hebrews, nor could the Israelites ever cast the Canaanites out of Jerusalem until this time when David took it by siege. This whole time was 515 years. So from the time that Joshua led our people across the river Jordan, and Moses couldn't go because what went down back at the waters of strife, and the Most High told Moses to get up in Mount Nebo and die for those faithful words he let utter at the waters of strife. He wasn't allowed to cross over into the promised land. It was Joshua who led our people across there. And it was Joshua who banged against those 5 Amorite kings and slaughtered them. It was 500 years later when King David came down to the Jebusite stronghold of Jebus and established the city of David on the top of that hill that you see right there. Now come on back up into the room and let's continue. Now we just read how David laid siege to Jerusalem. Now let's go back to the timeline of Jerusalem and let us continue. Y'all pull up that timeline that was provided to you, the first link I gave you. And let's continue on down the timeline. We stopped at 1004. King David captures Jebus, makes Jerusalem the capital of Israel's united kingdom. You can read that in our holy manuscript in 2 Samuel chapter 5, verses 6 through 10. Now, it was in 960 that King Solomon, David's son, began constructing the temple in the city of David, on the top of that hill where the stronghold was. Now, in 928, Israel was divided into 2 separate kingdoms. Jerusalem remained the capital of the house of Judah and the tribe of Benjamin. But the other 10 tribes went up north and made Samaria their capital. That was the beginning of the end of our nation because of our stiff-neckedness and our disobedience. And if you know the history of our people, you know what caused the tribes to split up. In 722 and 721, the Assyrian Empire conquered the northern kingdom, the house of Israel. And they went into slavery, into captivity. And it was at that point in history they became known as the lost 10 tribes of Israel. In 701, Hezekiah, who was down in Jerusalem, the Jerusalem that David had took from the Jebusites, he withstood the Assyrian king Sennacherib's unsuccessful siege of the capital. And he built a pool of Siloam, which was a tunnel for the water supply from the Gihon spring to come down to the lower city. From 606 to 597 BC, the Babylonian Empire came against us, and King Nebuchadnezzar captured the city of David. The Babylonians destroyed our city, went to the top of that hill and destroyed our temple. And we were exiled to Babylon in modern-day Iraq. In 538, King Cyrus wrote an edict and fulfilled the prophecies of the Most High by allowing the Hebrews, they estimate it was 50,000 Israelites, to return from Nebuchadnezzar's Babylon out of captivity and to rebuild the temple in the city of David back up on the top of that hill. In 516, the second temple was finished in the 6th year of Darius the Great. You can verify that in Ezra chapter 6, verses 15 through 18. In 332, Alexander the Great conquered Palestine from the Persians, and he captured Jerusalem. And I shared with y'all in a lesson that the high priest in Jerusalem at the time asked for an audience with Alexander and showed him that he was prophesied as being that leopard of the Greeks who would be a world-ruling empire, and he spared Jerusalem after the high priest showed him the prophecies. In 320, the Egyptian Pharaoh Ptolemy I captured Jerusalem. In 170 is when Antiochus Epiphanes, that filthy, nasty Greek bastard, came to Jerusalem, went up that hill to our temple. He outlawed our laws, Judaism, and he profaned the temple by slaughtering a swine upon our altar. And he erected a filthy statue of Zeus, the Greek god, on the top of that hill in that rebuilt temple in Jerusalem. It was that same Antiochus that killed them 7 brothers of that Hebrew mother who refused to eat swine by grievous tortures that you can read about in the book of Maccabees and the Apocrypha. It's time for you to learn your history, Zion. Continuing on this timeline of Jerusalem. 167. The Hasmoneans began the Maccabean revolts. A black Hebrew Israelite by the name of Judah Maccabea recaptured the city and restored the temple and brought back the law to the upper and lower city that David joined into one body, Jerusalem. In 63, Pompey captured Jerusalem for the Roman Empire. Uh-oh! Our natural enemies have finally arrived. Pompey captured Jerusalem for the Roman Empire. In 37, Rome appoints Herod king of Judea. This stinking Edomite who they put over the black Hebrew Israelites wasn't no king of ours, and we despised Herod. Them Romans said, you over these niggas, you over these Hebrews. And Herod didn't like us, and we didn't like him. And Jerusalem was made the capital of the Roman client kingdom. We were just another little pawn during the world-ruling empire of Rome's dynasty on earth at this time. In 19 BC, Herod began expanding the Temple Mount. Herod went back up on the top of that hill, and he began to refurbish and start rebuilding on the temple. This was during the time of Hamashiach Yeshua. During his birth, his earthly ministry, our temple was located in the city of David on the top of that hill. In AD 26, Pontius Pilate governs as the Roman procurator of Judea. In 27, Herod finally refurbishing the temple that set up at the former stronghold of Jebus. In 31 was when the Romans crucified our holy Messiah, the holy Lamb of Yah. In 66 through 73 AD, the Hebrews revolted against Rome. In 70 AD, the Roman army captures Jerusalem, sacks and destroys the temple, and exiles or enslaves every last Hebrew Israelite survivor. In 70 AD, the Roman general Titus laid siege and tore Jerusalem down to the ground. You can read about Titus's destruction of Jerusalem from a Hebrew Israelite historian who witnessed it with his own eyes. His name is Joseph ben Matthias. The world knows him as the great historian of antiquity, Flavius Josephus. We don't have time in this Shabbat lesson to go back and read that. You can read it at your own leisure. The online link was provided to you. You ain't got to go to no libraries. You ain't got to buy no books. It's been provided at the tip of your hand. Now in 70 AD, we are dealing with the Jerusalem that King David took from the Jebusites. Now let's continue on this timeline. In 132 is when the Bar Kokhba led the revolt against Rome. That's when them Hebrews finally said, we can't take it no more. And we rebelled against Rome. And we reinstated Jerusalem, the Hebrew capital. And in 135, this is what we hit on in our previous lesson. It was in 135 when the Roman Emperor Hadrian destroyed the city and renamed it Aelia Capitolina. And for more than 200 years, the world-ruling empire Rome would not allow a black Hebrew Israelite to even walk up on a mountain and look over and look down upon holy Jerusalem on the penalty of death for more than 200 years. Now the Hebrew eye looked upon the ruins of holy Jerusalem. This Roman Emperor Hadrian, after he destroyed what little bit had been built up, he sold it, which was an old Roman technique, to make sure ain't nothing else ever gonna grow there. And of course, he renamed it Aelia Capitolina. Now y'all, go back to that link, the house of Yahweh, because I want to show y'all a map of the land of Israel that was made back in the 1500s. A map that has Aelia Capitolina on it. It's the map that the heathens will never want you Hebrews to see. Right now, on that page, y'all should be on the overhead view of the house of Yahweh. Start scrolling up. Keep scrolling up past them wells. Keep scrolling up past them brothers standing there. Just keep on scrolling up. Scroll up past that heathen sitting with that brother. Keep scrolling up. Keep scrolling up past them pictures out of Telluride. Just keep scrolling up. Keep scrolling up till you're going to pass this geographical map. And once you pass that geographical map, you're going to come up on this map that says, second on the left, shown on the left, is a 17th century AD engraved map of the area of Jerusalem. which substantiates Josephus' description. So you just scrolling up till you go past a geographic map of the land of Israel, and then come to that map of the 17th century, an engraved map of the area of Jerusalem which substantiate Josephus' description. Once y'all are at that map, come on back up into the room and put a 5 up in her and let me know we at the same spot. And I'm going to show y'all on this map a clue that's vital in the understanding of the subject matter. And don't worry, on the videotape lesson, this map will be front and center. We ain't got to worry about come back and put a 5. Now it'll be front and center. Okay, Todah Rabbah. Now look at this map right here. It says, third is our earliest map of the area, as shown on the above, is the first atlas of the Holy Land by J. Ziegler entitled K. Intus Constantinor from 1532, which shows the Roman name Aelia Capitolona in the land of Benjamin in the place of the Jebusite Jerusalem. Y'all look up there. Do y'all see Aelia right there? In the top lower left-hand corner? Now notice that where Aelia is, it's surrounded by mountains. You remember last week or 2 weeks ago when we brought forth our lessons, the brothers pointed out that this heathen and this slickness drew this map upside down, where he got Aelia up north. But if you turn it and flip it upside down, where Aelia would be down south, that's the correct way this map should be. This is the depths of the craftiness of our adversaries, who would seek to keep you from finding these things out. Now this says, third is our earliest map of the area, is the first atlas of the Holy Land by J. Ziegler, entitled Q. Intus Constantinor from 1532 A.D., which shows the Roman name Aelia Capitolona in the land of Benjamin in the place of the Jebusite Jerusalem, Jerusalem surrounded by mountains. Do y'all see where Aelia is? And do you see on this atlas how it's surrounded by mountains? Not sitting in a mountain, as modern day Jerusalem is. Now check this. One of the differences between Amorite Jerusalem, or modern day Jerusalem, and the Jebusite Jerusalem is that one sits in the mountains and one is surrounded by mountains. According to Scripture, the 5 Amorite kings who Joshua conquered all lived in the mountains, including Adonizek, king of Amorite Jerusalem. Let's go to the book of Joshua, chapter 10, verses 1 through 6. Let's verify this in the manuscript. Let's go to the book of Joshua, chapter 10, verses 1 through 6. We read, Now it came to pass, when Adonizedek, king of Jerusalem, had heard how Joshua had taken Ai and had utterly destroyed it, as he had done to Jericho and her king, so he had done to Ai and her king, and how the inhabitants of Gibeon had made peace with Israel and were among them, that they feared greatly, because Gibeon was a great city, as one of the royal cities, and because it was greater than Ai, and all the men thereof were mighty. Wherefore Adonizedek, king of Jerusalem, sent into Hoham, king of Hebron, and unto Piram, king of Jarmuth, and unto Japhia, king of Lachish, and unto Debir, king of Eglon, saying, Come up unto me, and help me, that we may smite Gibeon. For it hath made peace with Joshua and with the children of Israel. Therefore the 5 kings of the Amorites, the king of Jerusalem, the king of Hebron, the king of Jarmuth, the king of Lachish, the king of Eglon, gathered themselves together and went up, they and all their hosts, and encamped before Gibeon and made war against it. Verse 6. And the men of Gibeon sent unto Joshua to the camp to Gilgal, saying, Slack not thy hand from thy servants. Come up to us quickly, and save us, and help us. For all the kings of the Amorites that dwell in the mountains are gathered together against us. So we see in Joshua chapter 10, verse 6, that all these kings of the Amorites dwelt in the mountains. If there's anybody in this room that understood that, put a 17 up in this room. For the king of the Amorites, along with the other 4 kings, all 5 of them dwelt in the mountains. Now concerning the Jerusalem that David founded, the manuscript says it is surrounded by mountains like you saw on that ancient map when they changed the name to Elia Capitolona. Let's go to the 125th Psalm for verification. Psalms 125, verses 1 and 2. All we need is 2 verses. In the 125th Psalm, verses 1 and 2, we clearly read, They that trust in the Most High Yah shall be as Mount Zion, which cannot be removed, but abideth forever. As the mountains are round about Jerusalem, so Yahweh is round about his people, from henceforth, even forever. Now go back and take a look at that link, of that map, made back in 1532, the first atlas of the Holy Land. Look up there where, after they changed the name to the Roman name Elia Capitolona, do you see Elia up there? Where that little dot is where Elia is. And do you see that Elia is surrounded by mountains? It does not sit in a mountain. Big difference. Another difference between what we call Ammonite Jerusalem and Jebusite Jerusalem. One, the children of Israel conquered when they entered the land of Israel under Joshua. And the other was taken by King David hundreds of years later. So this leads to 2 questions, you Hebrews. 2 questions come to mind. Which one is the modern city Jerusalem that the whole world knows about? And where is the other Jerusalem? The prophet Isaiah, who was a last day prophet. The prophet Isaiah states that Zion and Jerusalem were 2 different cities. Remember, the lower city and the upper city. That David made one body. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 64 and read verses 1 through 12. Let's go to the manuscript and do a little studying. In the book of Isaiah chapter 64, we read, "Oh, that thou wouldest rend the heavens, that thou wouldest come down, that the mountains might flow down at thy presence, as when the melting fire burneth. The fire causeth the waters to boil, to make thy name known to thine adversaries, that the nations may tremble presence, when thou didst terrible things which we look not for. Thou camest down, the mountains flowed down at thy presence. For since the beginning of the world men have not heard, nor perceived by the earth, neither hath the eye seen, O Yah, beside thee, what he hath prepared for him that waiteth for him. Thou meetest him that rejoiceth and worketh righteousness. Those that remember thee in thy ways, behold, thou art wroth. For we have sinned, in those is continuance, and we shall be saved. But we are all as an unclean thing, and all our righteousness are as filthy rags. And we all do fade as a leaf, and our iniquities, like the wind, have taken us away. And there is none that calleth upon thy name, that stirreth up himself to take hold of thee. For thou hast hid thy face from us, and hast consumed us because of our iniquities. But now, O Yahweh, thou art our Father. We are the clay, and thou art potter. And we all are the work of thy hand. Be not wroth very sore, O Yahweh. Neither remember iniquity forever. Behold, see, we beseech thee, we are all thy people, thy holy cities are a wilderness. Zion is a wilderness, Jerusalem a desolation. Stop! The last day prophet, Isaiah, who prophesied pertaining to the latter times. He said that our holy cities are a wilderness. Zion is a wilderness. The top, the city of David, that stronghold. And Jerusalem, the lower city, a desolation. Verse 11. Our holy and our beautiful house, where our fathers praised thee, is burned up with fire. That happened in 70 A.D. at the siege of Titus. And all our pleasant things are laid waste. Wilt thou refrain thyself for these things, O Yah? Wilt thou hold thy peace and afflict us very sore? Think back of that picture of the modern day overhead view of Telluride. Does that fit the scriptures in Isaiah? That our holy cities are a wilderness. Zion is a wilderness and Jerusalem a desolation. Because I profess to you that modern day Jerusalem is a modern city. It's inhabited. You have Jews, Christians, Muslims, and I don't know how many other kind of people live there. It's fully functional. They got motels, hotels, restaurants. They got the internet. They got television, the whole 9 yards. Now, Isaiah also stated that Zion should have a wilderness, waste places, and get this, a desert. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 51, verse 3, one verse. In Isaiah chapter 51, verse 3, we read, "For Yahweh shall comfort Zion." Could he be talking about the real Zion? He will comfort all her waste places. What waste places? And he will make her wilderness like Eden, and her desert like the garden of Yahweh. Joy and gladness shall be found therein, thanksgiving and the voice of melody. So we see here why Isaiah, the last day prophet, say that the Most High is going to comfort Zion. That he's going to comfort all her waste places. And he's going to make her wilderness like Eden, and her desert like the garden of Yahweh. I profess to you that Amorite Jerusalem that sits up in a mountain up north, it ain't got no desert. It's on the side of a mountain. But that Jebusite Jerusalem down south, it sits in the Negev desert. And again, which one, right now as we speak, has waste places? Continuing. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 49. And read verses 1 through 26. We read, "Listen, O owls, unto me, and hearken, ye people from far. Yah hath called me from the womb, from the bowels of my mother hath he made mention of my name. And he hath made my mouth like a sharp sword. In the shadow of his hand hath he hid me, and made me a polished shaft. In his quiver hath he hid me, and said unto me, Thou art my servant, O Yisrael, in whom I will be glorified. Then I said, I have labored in vain. I have spent my strength for naught and in vain. Yet surely my judgment is with the Most High, and my work with my Elohim. And now saith Yahweh, that formed me from the womb to be his servant, to bring Jacob again to him. Though Yisrael be not gathered, yet shall I be glorious in the eyes of Yahweh, and my El shall be my strength. And he said, It is a light thing that thou shouldest be my servant to raise up the tribes of Jacob, and to restore the herb of Israel. I will also give thee for a light to the Gentiles, that thou mayest be my salvation unto the end of the earth. Thus saith Yahweh, the Redeemer of Israel, and his Holy One, to him whom man despises, to him whom the nation abhorreth, to a servant of rulers. Kings shall see and arise. Princes also shall worship, because of Yahweh that is faithful, and the Holy One of Israel, and he shall choose thee. Thus saith Yahweh, in an acceptable time have I heard thee, and in the day of salvation have I helped thee, and I will preserve thee, and give thee for a covenant of the people, to establish the earth, to cause to inherit the desolate heritages. Do you see that? Verse 9, that thou mayest say to the prisoners, go forth. To them that are in darkness, show yourselves. They shall feed in the ways, and their pastures shall be in all high places. They shall not hunger nor thirst, neither shall the heat nor sun smite them. For he that hath mercy on them shall lead them, even by the springs of water shall he guide them. And I will make all my mountains a way, and my highways shall be exalted. Behold, these shall come from far, and lo, these from the north and from the west, and these from the land of Sinim. Sing, O heavens, and be joyful, O earth, and break forth into singing, O mountains, for Yahweh hath comforted his people, and will have mercy upon his afflicted. But Zion said, Yahweh hath forsaken me. I want y'all to remember that overhead picture. Remember the top of that mountain, at the top of that hill. That's Zion. But Zion said, Yahweh hath forsaken me, and my master hath forgotten me. Can a woman forget her suckling child, that she should not have compassion on the son of her womb? Yeah, they may forget, yet will I not forget thee. Behold, I have graven thee upon the palms of my hands. Thy walls are continually before me. Thy children shall make haste. Thy destroyers and they that made thee waste shall go forth of thee. Lift up thine eyes round about, and behold, all these gather themselves together and come to thee. As I live, saith Yahweh, thou shalt surely clothe thee with them all, as with an ornament, and bind them on thee, as a bride doeth. Verse 19, for thy waste and thy desolate places, and the land of thy destruction, shall even now be too narrow by reason of the inhabitants, and they that swallow thee up shall be far away. Stop! This was a last day prophecy concerning Zion and the return of the children of Israel to the promised land. How do we know this? Let's keep reading. Verse 20. The children which thou shalt have, and after thou hast lost the other, shall say again in thine ears, the place is too strait for me. Give place to me that I may dwell. Then shalt thou say in thine heart, who hath begotten me these? Seeing I have lost my children, and am desolate, a captive, and removing to and fro. We've been scattered, been slaves. And who hath brought up these? Behold, I was left alone. These, where have they been? This is Mount Zion having a conversation with the Most High. Who are all these children coming back? Where they been? Thus saith Yahweh Elohim, behold, I will lift up my hand to the Gentiles, and set up my standard to the people, and they shall bring thy sons in their arms, and thy daughters shall be carried upon their shoulders, and kings shall be thy nursing fathers, and their queens thy nursing mothers. They shall bow down to thee with their face toward the earth, and lick up the dust of thy feet, and thou shalt know that I am Yahweh. For they shall not be ashamed that wait for me. Shall the prey be taken from the mighty, or the lawful captive delivered? But thus saith Yahweh, even the captives of the mighty shall be taken away, and the prey of the terrible shall be delivered. For I will contend with him that contended with thee, and I will save thy children. And I will feed them that oppress thee with their own flesh, and they shall be drunken with their own blood as with sweet wine. And all flesh shall know that I, Yahweh, am thy Savior and thy Redeemer, the mighty one of Jacob. Hallelujah! Now I ask you, Zion, this prophecy has yet to unfold. You ain't back home yet, is you? This is prophecy to come. Zion asked the Most High, have you forgot about me? I'm still in desolation. I'm still in ruin. Am I forsaken? The Most High assured Zion, the children coming back. Matter of fact, those who messed over, they coming back on their shoulders. They gonna bring them back. And I'm going to contend with them that contended with thee. If there's anybody in this room that understood what we just read, put a hallelujah 1,000 up in her. Please. Because I'm here to tell you, Hashatan sure don't want y'all to see this. He don't want y'all to have a lit understanding pertaining to this. Now, Isaiah was a last day prophet. He prophesied what was going to go down in the latter times. And of course, what we just read in this 49th chapter ain't happened yet. Because I'm sure you brothers and sisters that's walking around in the Holy Land right now, y'all ain't got none of them crackers licking the dust off your boots right now. That ain't going to happen till we get home. And it's established. And it's going to be done. Because the word of the Most High don't come back void. If he said it's going to go down like that, it's going to go down just like that. Jeremiah also warned our ancestors what would happen to Jerusalem if they continue to disobey the Most High. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 6, verse 8. One verse. Isaiah wasn't only last day prophet who spoke on these things. In Jeremiah chapter 6, verse 8, we read this warning. Be thou instructed, O Jerusalem, lest my soul depart from thee, lest I make thee desolate, a land not inhabited. Stop! Am I the only one that sees this? That we were warned time and time again what would happen to our beloved city if our ancestors didn't straighten up? Well, we know in hindsight, our stiff-necked ancestors didn't straighten up. And all that the Most High promised to do unto her, he did. This cannot be questioned. All that the Most High said he would do, he did. And of course, when Moses first got the laws from the Most High upon Mount Sinai, he was given the prophecy right then and there of what would happen to our holy place because of disobedience to the 613 laws that Moses was given and told to teach them to the chosen people of the Most High. Our ancestors, the children of Israel, the Hebrews. And what did Moses tell them was going to happen? Let's go to the book of Leviticus, chapter 26, verses 27 through 35. With all your getting, get you understanding. In the book of Leviticus, chapter 26, verses 27 through 35, we read, "And if you will not for all this hearken unto me, but walk contrary unto me, then I will walk contrary unto you also in fury, and I will chastise you 7 times for your sins. And you shall eat the flesh of your sons, and the flesh of your daughters shall you eat." That happened in 70 A.D. Go back and read the eyewitness account of Flavius Josephus. See how those Roman bastards, when they knew that famine was in the city, they roasted goats at the base of the walls and let that smell come up over the wall gates, and it drove our ancestors crazy with hunger. And we ate our sons and our daughters during the siege of Titus. Verse 30, "And I will destroy your high places, and cut down your images, and cast your carcasses upon the carcasses of your idols, and my soul shall abhor you." Remember, King Solomon brought idols into that temple that set up on that hill in the city of David. When King Solomon went over to the dark side, listening to them strange-ass heifers who he married and worshiping their gods. Verse 31, "And I will make your cities waste, and bring your sanctuaries into desolation, and I will not smell the savor of your sweet odors, and I will bring the land into desolation. And your enemies which dwell therein shall be astonished at it. And I will scatter you among the heathen, and will draw out a sword after you. And your land shall be desolate, and your cities waste. Then shall the land enjoy her Sabbaths, as long as it lieth desolate, and ye be in your enemy's land. Even then shall the land rest, and enjoy her Shabbats. As long as it lieth desolate, it shall rest, because it did not rest in your Sabbaths when you dwelt upon it." How are you going to get around that? You can't get around that. And finally, on this scriptural run that we making pertaining to Zion and Jerusalem and the prophecies concerning her, Isaiah said that the waste places shall be builded again. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 58, verses 11 through 14. Don't believe your brother Jacob? Let's read it together, because that's how we roll. That's how we fellowship one with another. That's how we instructed to. For the scripture is given for reproof, correction, and instruction in righteousness, that which may have been lost may be found, including your true ancestral heritage and home, Zion. Isaiah said the waste places shall be builded. Let's verify it in the manuscript. In Isaiah chapter 58, verses 11 through 14, we read, "And Yahweh shall guide thee continually, and satisfy thy soul in drought, and make fat thy bones, and thou shalt be like a watered garden, and like a spring of water, whose waters fail not. And they that shall be of thee shall build the old waste places. Thou shalt raise up the foundations of many generations, and thou shalt be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of paths to dwell in. If thou turn away thy foot from the Sabbath, from doing thy pleasure on my holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight, the holy of the Most High, honorable, and shall honor him, not doing thine own ways, nor finding thine own pleasures, nor speaking thine own words. Then shalt thou delight thyself in Yahweh, and I will cause thee to ride upon the high places of the earth, and feed thee with the heritage of Jacob thy father, for the mouth of the Most High Yah have spoken it. Whew. What a promise, what a promise, what a promise. Now these scriptures apply to the Jerusalem that is known as the city of David, that's set upon that hill. In modern day Jerusalem, if you go, from the videotape that we saw, they had the city of David down in a valley up there in the land of Ephraim. Contradicts with Josephus' account of David taking the city of Jebus, and how he took that high stronghold of the Jebusites, and he built houses round about the lower city, and he joined the lower part of the city with that high spot and made it one and put a wall around it. The scripts say that those who go back and build up those old waste places, it's going to build up the foundations of many generations. You can see the foundations of the wall that was around Jerusalem to this day in the overhead view. And I profess to y'all that these heathens have went to great lengths to keep you from knowing these things. Now, as we shall see, as we go back to the timeline, because we ain't through, we got to go back to the timeline of the history of Jerusalem, we are going to see which of these places fits these prophecies that we just read out of the Holy Bible by these last day prophets. The ones given to Moses on top of Mount Sinai, and the ones given to Isaiah and Jeremiah. Now let's all go back to the timeline. Pull that back up, you Israelites. We stopped on this timeline at 135, when the Roman Emperor Hadrian destroyed the city and renamed it Aelia Capitolina, and banned Hebrews from entering. And for almost 200 years, there was not a Hebrew entered into our holy cities. 313, Emperor Constantine legalized a new religion called Christianity. Constantine converted and became a Christian. He said, you know what? That black Hebrew, Yeshua, who we crucified back there in Jerusalem, he was the Son of God. And all of a sudden, the very Romans who destroyed Jerusalem, not once but twice, first Titus and then Hadrian, this same Roman bastard gonna say, nah, I'm gonna become a follower of that Hebrew. I'm gonna become a Christian. But he never became, quote unquote, a Christian, because what is Christianity? Christianity is taking part of the Hebrew laws and merging it with they pagan with they pagan rites of their old religions. And when you merge they pagan rites with some of our Hebrew laws, they came up with a new religion called Christianity. Y'all come back up in the room, because I got to understand if y'all understand this. If y'all understood what I just said, put a 7 up in her. Christianity is a mixture of our laws along with the ancient pagan rites that Constantine and the Roman church wanted to keep. And they came up with a new religion called Christianity. Toda Rabbah. Now go back to the timeline. Keep this in mind. Constantine read the edicts of Hadrian. That Hadrian did not ever want another Hebrew to walk into our old Jerusalem again. So what did Constantine do? Constantine decided, you know, there was another Jerusalem, the Amorite Jerusalem, that one that sits up there in the mountain up north. I'm going to go there and proclaim that to be Jerusalem. And I'm going to make my headquarters of my Roman Catholic Church, of my newfound Christianity religion there. And that's what happened in 313 on this timeline. Next on this timeline, 326, Queen Helena, Constantine's mother, visits Jerusalem. Which Jerusalem? That one that's on the mountain. That one that Constantine was going to make his headquarters of his newfound Christian religion. That Amorite Jerusalem. This Roman whore went to that Jerusalem, and look what she did. She visits Jerusalem and determines locations of events supposedly associated with Christ's last days on earth. Leads to construction of religious sites, including the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Stop! Now, how in the hell could this Roman whore, who had never visited Jerusalem before in her life, how could she go there and say, this is where Christ was crucified, and over here, this is where he dragged that cross through the streets. And back over there is where he was buried and was resurrected. And that's why, to this day, if you go to modern Jerusalem, you go to what's called the traditional sites, not the actual sites. Do y'all understand the difference between traditional and actual? Come back up in the room. I need to see y'all understand this. If you understand the difference between a so-called traditional site of where something happened and the actual site of where something happened, if you understand that difference, put a 9 up in her, please. Because the Gentile heathens don't want you to understand the difference between the two. Zayah, Toda Rabbah. Who is this Roman whore? The Romans are our enemies. They wanted their foothold in our holy land. But in their slickness, never wanted to reveal where our holy Jerusalem really is. They pulled a magician's trick. Then Constantine gonna trot his mama out up in her, and she gonna point out what a holy site's at, huh? And that so-called well and wall, they know that ain't got nothing to do with the temple that was built in the city of David on the top of that hill at the Jebusite stronghold of Zion. They know that's the remnant of Fort Antonia, a Roman fortress that was put up during the time that Constantine set up that Jerusalem as his Christian capital. Now let's continue on this timeline. Get me excited over here. Spitting everywhere. In 361 to 363, the pagan emperor Julian the Apostate allows the Jews to return to that Jerusalem. Now, we ain't laid eyes on Jerusalem in 200 years. But when they told us we can come back to Jerusalem, we didn't go down south. They told them, no, it's up here on the side of this mountain. In 614, the Persians took over that city, destroyed most of those Roman Catholic churches, and expelled the Jews. In 627, the Byzantine Emperor Hercules recaptures the city. In 638, the Muslim Arabs captured the city, readmitting the Jews. In 691, that's when that golden dome of the rock was completed. In 715, that's when the Al-Aqsa Mosque was completed. In 1009, synagogues and churches were destroyed in the Amorite Jerusalem. In 1071, Seljuk Turks devastated Jerusalem. In 1099, the first Crusaders captured Jerusalem and massacred most of the city's Jews and Muslims. In 1187, the Kurdish general Saleh captures the city and permits Jews and Muslims to settle in Jerusalem. In 1192, England's Richard the Lion-Hearted fails to recapture the city. He makes a treaty with Saladin, permitting professing Christians to worship at their holy sites. What holy sites? The holy sites picked out by that Roman whore, Queen Helena. In 1229, a treaty returning the city back to the Crusaders was signed. In 1244, Khwarezmian Turks captured Jerusalem, ending Crusader rule. Mamluk sultans defeat the Ayyubids and rule the city, which is back in Muslim hands. In 1348, the Black Death Plague hits Jerusalem. In 1492, Jews arrive following Spanish exile. Now this is during a time that those European converts to Judaism first started migrating towards the Holy Land. Now, of course, they wouldn't know what a Jebusite Jerusalem was because they'd never been there. They went straight to the Ammonite Jerusalem on the side of that mountain set up by Constantine and his mammy. It was in 1492. In 1517, in a peaceful takeover, Jerusalem and Palestine became part of the Ottoman Empire. In 1838, the first British consulate opened in Jerusalem. In 1840, the Ottomans retook the city. In 1844, they had a census. It was 7,120 Jews, 5,760 Muslims, 3,390 Christians in that Jerusalem on the side of that mountain. In 1849, the first Protestant church was built in that Jerusalem up north. In 1860, the first Jewish settlement was built outside the city walls. In 1892, railroad connects the city to the coast. In 1917, the Britons seized that Jerusalem. In 1918, the Hebrew University of Jerusalem was founded. In 1920, Britain charged with a mandate for Palestine. There were disturbances between 1921 through 1929 and between 1936 and 1939. What disturbances? Disturbances between the Arabs and the Edomite Jews and the converts to Judaism who had been back in that land, up north in Ammonite Jerusalem. In 1946, militant Zionists blew up the King David Hotel in that Jerusalem, killing 91 people. In 1947, the United Nations resolution recommended turning Jerusalem into an international city. In 1948, the British mandate ends. The state of Israel was declared. In 48 and 49 was the Arab-Israeli War. Armies from neighboring nations invade the country. The Jewish quarter of the old city falls to Arab forces. West Jerusalem proclaimed territory of Israel. In 49, an agreement was signed between Israel and Transjordan. And as you can see through the rest of that timeline, it brings it up to today. modern Jerusalem, founded by Constantine, and the holy sites picked out by his mother, Queen Helena, on the side of the mount up in the land of Ephraim in the north. Now ask yourself this question, Zion. When from the time of Constantine to today did that modern-day Jerusalem sit desolate and in waste and totally uninhabited, enjoying her Sabbath? I profess to you, these heathens been fighting over that Jerusalem since the days of Constantine and his mammy Helena. And that Jerusalem has been busy ever since. While that one down south, down there in the desert, that remains desolate and waste, has been enjoying her Sabbath, while we've been dwelling in our enemies' lands, fulfilling the prophecies given to Moses atop Mount Sinai in the book of Leviticus. Whereas when we look at the history of modern-day Jerusalem, they've been banging for it since the days of Constantine. Now get this. It was the Roman Catholic Church who created the religion of Islam. It was the Roman Catholic Church who set up the so-called prophet named Muhammad and instructed them how they was going to start this new religion called Islam. A few years ago in this room, we did a lesson and I broke that down to you. And for those of you who don't believe me, you can click on that link right there and verify it for yourself. The Roman Catholic Church created Islam and set up Muhammad as a prophet. Now check this. Muhammad grew in strength and he pulled a double cross on the Roman Catholic Church. It was the Catholics who set up the lie that Muhammad went to Jerusalem. And from there, on the Temple Mount, he started flapping wings and flew up to heaven to the Most High, and the Most High handed him the Quran. When this double cross between Muhammad and the Catholic Church took place, the Muslims who came up behind Muhammad believed that crap. And that's when they began to lay claim to that Jerusalem. Because they claim where that golden dome is, that's the exact spot that Muhammad started flapping wings and flew up to heaven. If y'all understand that, put a 3 up in her. This is why the Muslims lay claim to Jerusalem. And they've been fighting since the days of the Prophet Muhammad for that Jerusalem ever since. Todah Rabbah. I knew it wouldn't be hard. And don't believe Brother Jacob. Look at that link that I gave to you. It's the confessions of a former ranking Roman Catholic Jesuit priest who will break it down that Islam was created by the Roman Catholic Church. Now again, ask yourself this question. Since the day that Constantine chose MRHEBREW Jerusalem to be the capital of his Roman Catholic brand of Christianity, and let his whore Roman mother pick and choose the so-called traditional sites, when according to this timeline, This Jerusalem didn't lie desolate and waste and enjoy her Sabbats with no inhabitants in the land. Now indeed, those Muslims want Jerusalem right now. The Roman Catholics created a monster when they created this Islam religion. And it could be from the directions of Satan the devil himself. Because would y'all believe if I told you, Israelites, that there are heathen Christians out here who believe that the Antichrist will be a Muslim and will take over the temple that will be rebuilt next to the Golden Dome in modern-day Jerusalem? Hell, don't believe me. Let's watch it together.
This is Armageddon News. In this broadcast, we discuss the rebuilding of the Jewish Third Temple. We'll discover how the Antichrist is like Antiochus Epiphanes, and we'll discuss the Islamic agenda to establish the temple as the seat of the Islamic Caliph. Good day. Most people have no idea how the last days will start. But the Bible specifically speaks about a period of 7-year tribulation before Jesus appears from heaven. Biblical scholars know that the 7-year tribulation will begin with a peace treaty signed between Israel and the Arabs, and that the initiator or mediator of this peace treaty will be the Antichrist himself, who appears as a man of peace and a promoter of peace in the Middle East. But in truth, he is a man of war, who will use peace as the Trojan horse, by promising Israel safety and security for 7 years. Most people miss the fact that the Bible says, this covenant will be with many, not just Israel. Daniel 9:27 says, that ruler will have a firm agreement with many people for 7 years. Many people is not just Israel and Palestine. This agreement must include other nations as well. Most likely, the Arab nations, which surround Israel. These are possibly the many people being spoken of here. Part of the peace treaty may even be the recognition of Israel as a nation. And the Antichrist will be the one who confirms this agreement between these many nations and Israel. Some scholars believe that one of the main points of this peace treaty will be that the Arabs allow the Jews to rebuild Solomon's temple on Mount Moriah. The only problem preventing the Third Temple's construction is the fact that it is currently being occupied by the Islamic Dome of the Rock, built over what Jews believe to be the stone altar of Abraham. According to some biblical scholars, the Third Temple could be built right next to the Dome of the Rock. This is based on the theory of Dr. Asher Kaufman regarding the location of the Eastern Gate, that the Muslim Dome of the Rock was actually built on what the Bible refers to as the Court of the Gentiles. This belief is based on Revelation 11:1, which states that the rebuilding of the Third Temple is not to include the section of the Temple Mount known as the Court of the Gentiles. Therefore, they believe that the Third Temple and the Dome of the Rock could stand side by side. The Bible is very clear that a Third Temple will be standing on Mount Moriah in the last days. And the only way that this could possibly occur is if the Arabs granted Israel permission to begin construction. But this has not stopped the Temple Institute from preparing the vessels and blueprints for the Third Temple's construction. Here are some of the vessels which have already been prepared. They include many types of gold, silver and copper vessels. These are vessels which the Jewish priests require to perform the daily rituals and offerings made to God. Silver trumpets, for the announcement of Jewish feast days. And even a reconstruction of David's harp. The 7-candle menorah. and the golden crown, prepared for the high priest, has also been made ready. Inscribed with the words, "Holy unto the Lord." According to Exodus 28:36. Surprisingly, there has been a recent increase in the call from prominent Muslims to see Solomon's temple rebuilt. This is quite a shocking statement, seeing that the majority of Muslims are against Jews even setting a foot on the Temple Mount. At first glance it appears as a gesture of good faith on the part of these Muslims. But, the Bible reveals a sinister agenda behind their call to see Solomon's temple rebuilt. If given the opportunity and Islamic approval, the Jews may very well opt to build their temple right beside the Dome of the Rock. And this will probably be the most likely scenario. That we will see the Dome and the Third Temple stand side by side on the Temple Mount. But at the cost of initiating the 7-year tribulation. Once the Jews have finished rebuilding their Third Temple, they will once again instate the Jewish animal sacrifices. 1 Thessalonians 5:3, for when they shall say, peace and safety, then sudden destruction comes upon them, as travail upon a woman with child. And they shall not escape. The Bible tells us that Israel will say to themselves, finally we have peace and safety. But this peace, as with all treaties signed with Arabs, will not last. For Muslims are taught by the Quran itself, to lie to infidels and create false treaties, all for the purpose of eventually getting the upper hand. It's called taqiyya and hudna. This concept is foreign to the West, who have no idea that the Quran teaches Muslims to lie, and to never honor treaties with infidels. Now it makes perfect sense why the Antichrist breaks his 7-year treaty, after just 3.5 years, and attacks and conquers Jerusalem. Because he is Islamic. But let's give more proof to our assertion that the Antichrist is Muslim. The King James Bible says the Antichrist covers the Third Temple with abominations. Daniel 9:27. And for the overspreading of abominations, he shall make it desolate. Abominations in the Bible were always connected to religion. Abominations to God are idols, symbols of another god. Remember Antiochus Epiphanes. Many biblical scholars see him as a forerunner of the little horn Antichrist, mentioned in the book of Daniel. After Antiochus conquered Egypt, he then surprise attacked, and conquered, Jerusalem. Declaring himself to be God made manifest. He also put a statue of his god Zeus in the temple. And rededicated the temple, to Zeus. Outlawing Jewish religious rites and traditions, and ordering that Zeus be worshipped, as the supreme god. But back to my point, about abominations. Most people have been taught that the Antichrist's army will come from Europe or America. But what religious symbols, or abomination, could an EU, or American army, desolate the Jewish temple with? They don't have any, because their armies are not religious. Look again at the next verse and recognize there is a religion to this invading army. Because they take away the Jewish sacrifice, because of what? Transgression. And a host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression. And it cast down the truth to the ground. And it practiced, and prospered. Daniel 8:12. The Bible makes it plain that the Jewish sacrifice is a transgression or offense to this invading army. But transgression against who? Against their God, Allah. Muslims limit Jewish access to the Temple Mount, in case a Jew prays there. And many Jews have tried to sacrifice there, which has caused terrible backlash by the Muslims. Look at why this army has assembled. The Bible says they attack Jerusalem, because they are against the daily sacrifice. And an host was given him against the daily sacrifice. Why would the EU or America care about the daily sacrifice? They don't. So who is against the Jews sacrificing on the Temple Mount? The Muslims. The Muslims assemble their armies against the daily sacrifice, because the Muslims claim that the Temple Mount is holy to them. And a Jewish sacrifice, they see as defiling it. So they will take away the Jewish sacrifice, because they see it as a transgression against Allah. And just like Antiochus, rededicated the Jewish temple to Zeus. So too will the Islamic Antichrist rededicate the third temple to his god Allah, by making it a mosque. And he will place on its pinnacle the well-known symbol of Allah, by which all mosques are identified. This is the religious abomination of which Daniel spoke. The awful horror, or abomination which causes desolation, will be placed on the highest point of the temple, and will remain there until the one who put it there meets the end which God has prepared for him. The Bible tells those in Judea exactly what to do when this Islamic army attacks Jerusalem and enters the third temple. Mark 13:14. But when you see the abomination of desolation standing where it should not be, let the reader understand. Then those in Judea must flee to the mountains. The one on the roof must not come down or go inside to take anything out of his house. The one in the field must not turn back to get his cloak. Woe to those who are pregnant, and to those who are nursing their babies in those days. Pray that it may not be in winter. For in those days, there will be suffering. Unlike anything that has happened, from the beginning of the creation, that God created until now, or ever will happen. And if the Lord had not cut short those days, no one would be saved. But because of the elect, whom he chose, he has cut them short. The book of Daniel tells us that God will only allow the Islamic Antichrist to rule 1,290 days. From the time he sets up the abomination. When Antiochus conquered Jerusalem, he declared himself Zeus made manifest. Some believe that the Antichrist is an atheist who does not have a god. But the book of Daniel is clear that indeed the Antichrist does honor a god, the god of forces. But in his estate shall he honor the god of forces, and a god whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold, and silver, and with precious stones, and pleasant things. Other translations render it the god of fortresses. The Antichrist honors the god of fortresses, and war. A god who defends fortresses, and armies. But who is this god? He is Allah, the god of jihad and the god of war. The god of the armies of Islam. Allah is the one who told Muhammad to go out spreading Islam by war and force. Indeed, the only god of war today is Allah, the god of jihad. And just like Antiochus declared himself to be Zeus's manifestation, so too will the Islamic Antichrist declare that he is Allah's manifestation, or mouthpiece. 2 Thessalonians 2:4. He will oppose every so-called god or object of worship, and will put himself above them all. He will even go in and sit down in God's temple and claim to be God. Muslims believe in one they call the Imam Mahdi, the Islamic Messiah, who will rule the world from the Temple Mount. When the Islamic Antichrist takes his seat in God's temple and proclaims he is God, this will be a sign to Muslims that this man is the Mahdi, whom they have been waiting for. And his coming will be attended by signs and wonders, to deceive the Muslims into believing he is the Islamic Messiah. At that point, Jesus warned that false prophets would appear, trying to deceive God's people. Then, if anyone says to you, "Look, here is the Messiah," or, "Look, there he is," do not believe it. For false messiahs and false prophets will appear. They will perform miracles and wonders, in order to deceive even God's chosen people, if possible. In Daniel 7:25, the Bible says the Antichrist will try to change the times and the law. The times literally refers to the Islamic calendar and its religious festivals, which he will force all to obey. And the law refers to Sharia law, which he will impose on all those in his kingdom. Sharia law is the same law which undermines women in Islam. And this explains perfectly why the Antichrist does not care about the desires of women. Neither shall he regard the desires of women. Because under Islamic law, women are treated worse than animals, and even beaten publicly by men. They are forced to wear the hijab. And many women have even been put to death after becoming victims of rape, or beheaded when they've been accused of adultery by men. Women truly have no rights under Sharia law. Now you can see why the Bible stresses the point that the Antichrist doesn't care about the desires of woman. The Antichrist will demand, just like Antiochus did, that all Christians and Jews worship his God, Allah, and will make it unlawful to practice any other faith, other than Islam. And Christians will be forbidden from attending churches on Sunday. And the false prophet will force all to bow down and show allegiance to the Caliph and his revived Islamic empire. And he will force all to take its mark, on their foreheads, or right hands, to show that they have submitted to his Islamic empire. And no one will be able to buy, or sell, without this mark of allegiance. The Bible is very clear, that people will only receive the mark, once they have bowed down, in worship before the beast, or his image. The Bible warns us, saying, whoever worships the beast and its image, and receives a mark on his forehead, or his hand, will drink the wine of God's wrath, which has been poured unmixed, into the cup of his anger. He will be tortured, with fire and sulfur, in the presence of the holy angels, and the Lamb. The smoke from their torture, goes up forever and ever. There is no rest day or night, for those who worship the beast, and its image, or for anyone who receives the mark of its name. The mark may take the form of a stamp, on forehead, or hand, or even a badge, to be worn on forehead or right arm. But one thing is certain, it will be linked to the revived Islamic Caliphate. And those who show allegiance to the beast and his Islamic empire, which demands jihad, against Christians and Jews, will suffer eternally in the lake of fire, together with the Islamic Antichrist. So to recap, do not bow down to the Caliph, nor swear any oaths of allegiance to him. Do not take the mark of his name, as a stamp on your forehead or hand, or wear his mark, as a badge on your forehead or right arm. And do not worship the image which he sets up, even though it speaks, and you may be put to death or imprisoned, because of your refusal to bow to it. Rather believe in God's only begotten Son, Jesus Christ, who died on the cross for your sins. Call upon his name, and you shall be saved. Only Jesus has the power to save. His name is the only one in all the world that can save anyone. For the original name of Jesus, in Hebrew, is Yeshua, which means Yahweh saves. And salvation is found in no other. So cry out to God today. Ask him to forgive you of all your sins. And believe in what he did for you on the cross, and you shall be saved. John 3:16. For God so loved the world, that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Please pray this prayer today. Father God, I believe that you sent your Son, Jesus Christ, to die on the cross for my sins. I believe that he died and was resurrected, and is coming back to judge the living and the dead. Father, I repent. Please forgive me of all my sins. Come into my heart, and make me your child. In the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. If you have said this prayer, and decided to turn from your life of sin, and follow Jesus Christ, then you have become a child of God. Please go and find a born-again Christian church, where you can have fellowship with other believers. Thank you for listening. Please see our other broadcasts on the end days. This program has no copyright, and may be distributed freely.
As y'all can see, them heathens are scared to death. Could this scenario play out? I don't know. The time is close at hand, and some of us will witness these things with our own eyes. Now let's go back to the heathen from Texas who made a trip to Israel, and look at just a couple of this cracker's observations. Y'all go back to that link, the house of Yahweh, We last left off when we was looking at that map that had Elia on it. I want y'all to scroll down and look at this map that's right below that map of Elia. That's a geographic reference. That's a geographical map of Israel. On that map that you're looking at, the evergreen and the woodland part is in that darker shade on that part of the map. The dry forest, that's on that lighter shade up under the darker shade. And the desert is the one that's up under that lighter skin, that lighter one, complected one. It reads up under that map, geographic references state that Zion should be called a wilderness and a desert, according to Isaiah 51:3. We read that. For Yah shall comfort Zion, he will comfort all her waste places, and we will make her wilderness like Eden, and her desert like the garden of Yah. Joy and gladness shall be found therein, thanksgiving and the voice of melody. And Isaiah 64:10 says, thy holy cities are a wilderness. Zion is a wilderness, Jerusalem a desolation. Above is shown a map of the land of Israel, dividing according to its desert, forest, and evergreen areas. From these it can be seen what is modernly the desert of Israel. However, modern Jerusalem is located in the area of a forest. Look up at that map. You see where that dot is on Jerusalem? It's located in the section of the forested area. But where is Tel Arad? It's down south. It's in the desert of Negev. It fits the description of the book of Isaiah that Zion would have a desert. Now I want y'all to scroll up past that picture of Elia, and there's a map of David's city from 1010 BC. You see the wall, you see the top of that hill where that citadel was that David them had to get up through there with? That lies in modern day Tel Arad. Scroll up. I want y'all to scroll up to where it says the house of Yah, confirmed to be the true name of the working family of Yah, discovered at Tel Arad, Israel. Possibly the Jebusite Jerusalem and the tabernacle of David. In June of 2000, the editor was blessed to take a trip to Israel with his family. Scroll down. The following year, 2 paragraphs down, we decided to visit Israel to discover the location or area where this piece might have been found. What piece they talking about is what I told y'all about at the beginning of this lesson. When they found out that there was an archaeological dig down in the Negev, and they uncovered some pottery that dated back to the time of Solomon that had on it the house of Yahweh, that stirred these heathens out of Texas to scramble over to the Holy Land. Now let's read. Therefore, when we first arrived in the land of Israel in 1987, the first place we went to was Jerusalem in order to investigate the mystery behind this inscription and to investigate this city. He went to modern day Jerusalem. Go down in the middle of that next paragraph where he states, then we looked at the walls around the city called Old Jerusalem, which did not extend around the place called Mount Zion. Place below to the right shows earlier view of Jerusalem area from the Zondervan Pictorial Bible. What he is saying here is where they say the city of David is. He went looking for that citadel, that fortress that was supposed to sit in that upper city from that lower city. He did not see that in modern day Jerusalem. He says, however, we were not looking for the temple of Solomon on Mount Moriah because we knew it to have been destroyed in 70 AD by the Romans. Yet, we were looking for the citadel or fortress which David took and called the city of David, and later made a place there for the ark and the tabernacle of David, the house of Yah, on Mount Zion, where it was prophesied at Amos 9 and 11, in that day will I raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen, and close up the breaches thereof. And I will raise up his ruins, and I will build it as in the days of old. So the prophet Amos prophesied that that spot that David built was going to be built up from ruins. This quacker from Texas went over there looking for this citadel in modern Jerusalem on the side of that mountain. Couldn't find it. Wasn't there. That's what he said. We sat down first before what is called Mount Zion, because it is written in Psalm 87:2, Yah loveth the gates of Zion more than the dwellings of Jacob. Then we looked at the walls around a city called Old Jerusalem, which did not extend around a place called Mount Zion, and there go a map of it that he put. In the Armenian quarter, David's tower and citadel on the west side of the city, on one of the highest points in the old city next to the Jaffa Gate. The Mount of Zion was on the southwest side outside the old city, and had been built upon it the church of the Dormitian near the Zion Gate, and also outside of the old city near the Jewish quarter and below the Mount Ophel on the southeast side is the city of David. But all we knew said that all three of these places were biblically the same location. So if they're the same location in the manuscript, how are they spread out in different areas in modern day Jerusalem? That whore Roman queen, Helena, was the one who said this was that and this is this and that was that. Well, this heathen go on to say, and y'all bookmark this link, read it and study for yourselves. He go on to say, that ain't the spot. He went down to Telluride. This quacker say, this is the city of David. This is the Jerusalem of the ancient Hebrews. Don't believe me. Study to show thyself approved. Now, like I told you, Israelites, just like I told you I would, I was able to talk with Ashira ben Yisrael, the brother y'all saw on the video, The Real Jerusalem. First hollered at the Ark via email. Then I had a telephone call with the brother that lasted almost an hour. After I had gotten through talking with Aki Shallow, who lived over in the land, for about 2 or 3 hours, a couple of days ago on Tuesday. And I told the brother, Ak, you know, first off, again, I want to thank you for putting together that film. And he went on to tell me the story how he made his way over there. It was unbelievable. Wound up going by himself. I told him, you know, that I hope he didn't mind me using his video and the lesson that I did. He said, no, you did a beautiful job, fam. We exchanged numbers. And we got some things in the works, because there's a lot of brothers who want to come over there to the land and see these things for themselves. Now, suffice to say, this is a lot for us to comprehend and to swallow. You know, like all of a sudden out of nowhere, man, there's 2 Jerusalems. What? And you mean one ain't the real one and the other? What? Your brother Jacob understands. But that won't quench my zeal for bringing you Israelites prophecies pertaining to things that are going down in this hour. Because the manuscript said if it were possible, they would deceive the very elect. But it ain't possible. So that in fact, all of these things are true. What we read in the manuscript contains dual prophecies. Some of those prophecies pertaining to Jerusalem is prophesying about Amorite Jerusalem, which is currently occupied, inhabited, and is claimed by different religions of the world and is an international and world-renowned city. And some of these prophecies apply to Amorite Jerusalem in the south that sits down in the desert that's surrounded by mountains. There are dual prophecies, as many of these scriptures are. This is why the Most High gave us the charge to study, to show thyself approved, and to continue to grow in wisdom and knowledge that can help you obtain everlasting life in the kingdom that the Most High has set up for the chosen of his people. I asked the brother Ashira, well, you know, I got brothers over there, man, who say they still got serious doubts about what you're saying, player. Now, if Telerad is the ancient Holy Land, that means the Mount of Olives got to be down there. Explain that to me. I got Hebrews asking hard questions. The brother told me the Mount of Olives is one of those mountains that surrounds that lower city and upper city down there in the desert. And I said, man, you know what? Them damn heathens will rename a mountain, because they sure renamed the continent of Africa. They named Africa after Scipio Africanus, a Roman general who defeated Hannibal and took all of North Africa for the Romans. They gave him the honor of naming that entire continent after him. And the name Africa applies to that land to this day. It was named after Scipio Africanus. And if them crackers will name a continent, they show in their slickness will rename mountains. If y'all agree with that, put a 7 up in her, if them crackers is capable of such things. For truly when the time of the Gentiles came, they sought to change times and laws. That's the nature of those in power and running things. Torah Rabbah. So hell yeah, they're tried. Could some of the prophecies concerning Jerusalem be twofold prophecies? Could one apply to Amorite Jerusalem that sits in a mountain, is inhabited, and is still being fought over? And others apply to the one that lies in waste, enjoying her Sabbath, and waiting for the remnant of Israel to come to her and to rebuild the foundations of many generations? It very well could be. So as the last day prophecies begin to unfold before our eyes, one thing is for certain. We shall see. That's our lesson. The real Jerusalem, part 2. I pray that it makes Israelites worldwide ponder and do some serious research using some of the links and tools that were given unto you. And I profess to you, all you got to do is keep breathing, and you're going to see some things that you thought you'd never seen. For some Hebrews, it's going to take them announcing it on CNN, Fox News, ABC, NBC, CBS, on all the world satellite feeds. It's going to take them heathens announcing it like that. For some Hebrews to believe this very well may be true. But for some, after doing the research, a fire has been lit up under, and prayers are going up to the Most High to provide a way to get down to Telerad and let me see these things with my own eyes. Giving all praise, glory, and honor unto the Most High Yah. His will shall be done in all things, and all things that were done in the darkness shall be brought out into the light. I present this lesson in humility not attempting to upset any of my brothers and sisters. And if by chance you don't agree with nothing that was in either one of these presentations, still know you my Hebrew Israelite brother to the end, my friend. And I want to get to that same kingdom with you. And we're going to walk this out all the way into the end. To the enemies of the house of Israel, I tell you bastards this. We don't care what y'all got hid up under the catacombs of Rome. We don't care how many goat stomping, goat riding, secret handshakes and signs y'all give not to reveal certain things to the children of Israel. All of it's going to come out. And y'all best damn well better believe there's a brother in the SCL named Jacob Israel who will snatch the drawers off you motherfuckers and shout it from the rooftops. 'Cause I count you suckers my enemies. And I'm seeking out my brethren who ain't scared. And we gonna tell you heathens, the reason y'all asses is freezing off on one side of America and y'all thirsty and dry with drought out in California, the reason these F9 tornadoes about to fall out the sky so lovely upon you heathens' heads, don't have you terrified. The reason you about to see volcanoes and mountains erupting all over the planet is because the earth is having birth pains for the remnants of the 12 tribes of Israel to return back into their ancestral home. And you will hear the voices of Hebrews like me saying, let my people go. And we will go back home upon the shoulders of kings. And queens will be our nursing mothers. And we don't have you heathens gold. We gonna take all the Escalades we can handle, all the big screen TVs, and we going home. And a few of you lucky suckers gonna be our handmaids and servants. Now run and tell that to your masters. That's our lesson. The real Jerusalem part 2. Shalom to the 12 tribes worldwide.